Welcome to Hoax Hunter. I'm Razimus, and in this episode, the topic is chemtrails. Chemtrails in the past was nothing more than contrails, vapor trails on the back or the tail wing tips of airplanes. And now, supposedly something as innocent as that is now turned into a huge conspiracy of death clouds. And thanks to John Oliver, I have seen how ridiculous chemtrails and the subject of chemtrails really are. So I thought it would be a good topic to cover. I did see some chemtrails, and as you can see, here's some chemtrails I filmed in my front yard, right over my house. And so the chemtrails were over my head, supposedly sprayed, right above my house, and I inhaled the chemtrails, and they were amazingly refreshing. I love the smell of chemtrail in the morning.
Max Headroom.
My production, Max Headroom jacket. So I'm wearing my new favorite Max Headroom production jacket, worn by Christopher, one of the production crewmen of the TV show Max Headroom Christopher. So thanks to Christopher, shout out to Christopher, for working on one of my favorite TV shows of all time, Max Headroom. Max Headroom. Chemtrails are pretty much the least threatening thing in my life when it comes to things I feel that are concerning to me. Chemtrails would have to be the least concerning thing in my life, but because it's a popular subject, I thought I'd cover it today. So I did some digging, I did some searching. Now, I am familiar with the origins of the coining of the term chemtrails. I'm a big Art Bell fan, Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell, in the 90s. And around 1997, 1998, I remember hearing possibly the first major coining of the term chemtrails live on the air. Art Bell had a guest, and that guest was clearly a conspiracy theorist, and that guest mentioned chemtrails for the first time that I had ever heard of it. And it was the first time Art Bell had ever heard of it either. And Art Bell was like, chemtrails. Has a nice ring to it. And the guests, I don't know if they knew how extremely on fire that term would catch, but that term is like wildfire across the internet. You can't surf YouTube very long without bumping into a chemtrail-related video. There are chemtrail whistleblowers now. I did watch a chemtrail whistleblower video or two, and it was a female military whistleblower who is either ex-military or currently in the military. I'm not sure of the situation, and I'm sure they served the country well and did a good job. They claimed to be in a secret facility with a lot of chemicals, and some of those chemicals were aluminum, and aluminum is clearly one of the secret chemicals in chemtrails. The reason aluminum is thought by conspiracy theorists and chemtrail experts and researchers to be one of the main ingredients of chemtrails is because the soil was tested, and one of the main elements was aluminum. Now, the fact of the matter is, aluminum is one of the most common elements in the soil, chemtrails and no chemtrails, across the whole world. It's just one of the natural elements of the soil of planet Earth. Aluminum, you're going to see it everywhere. Very common. It's not harmful to human beings. Otherwise, they wouldn't be making cans out of aluminum. No one is afraid of drinking out of an aluminum can, and so you shouldn't have any fear of aluminum being in the soil. But that's, in my opinion, there's no link. There's no evidence that there is aluminum in the skies. You can't just test the soil. You need to go up there in the sky and test the actual chemtrails. Get some vials and bottles of chemtrails. Don't wait for it to get into the soil. It's a contaminated source at that point. There could be anything in that soil having nothing to do with the chemtrail. So apparently they don't have the funds and resources to fly a helicopter or airplane up there and collect a vial of the clouds, of the chemtrails. But that's what I recommend for them. And until then, I do not trust their data. I don't believe the chemtrail scientists are looking at the science. They're looking at the conspiracy theory YouTube videos over and over and over, and they're putting themselves in a conspiracy theory frenzy. The fact of the matter is, I've seen chemtrails back before they were called chemtrails. Back then they were called contrails. Now, I personally believe there is a difference between contrails and what the conspiracy theorists claim to be chemtrails. Because contrails disappear after 2 minutes and chemtrails stay in the sky for hours. The reason contrails dissipate after a few minutes and chemtrails stay in the air for hours is because they're not contrails. They are more like clouds. They're more like cloud trails. Now, I was going to try to coin the term cloud trails, but I see cloud trails is already used. But cloud trails is the closest thing I could really call chemtrails. They're really just elongated clouds. And the reason they're going to stay in the sky for hours, they're going to stay in the sky as long as any cloud in the sky is going to stay in the sky, based on a few factors. The humidity in the air. There are many factors that are going to cause a cloud trail to stay in the sky for many hours as opposed to a few minutes. The conspiracy theorists claim if it doesn't dissipate after a few minutes, it's nefarious and it has something to do with chemicals. That's not the case. It has to do with the humidity in the air. I'm not a scientist. I'm not going to break it down. And if I did, it wouldn't matter. The conspiracy theorists aren't going to buy this video. They're not going to buy my perspective. They're not going to buy the scientist's perspective. But after reading the science, the crystals form in certain climates, certain atmospheric conditions, humidity, temperature. There are many factors that are going to cause it to turn into a cloud-like structure. And guess what that structure is? That structure is a cloud. It's a cloud trail. It's not a chemical trail. Now, I do understand chemical trails do exist when it comes to crop dusting. They drop chemicals on the crops to make sure the insects don't eat the crops before they are harvested. There are types of chemical dumps that they dump on forest fires to put out the fires. Occasionally, they will dump fuel for safety reasons or whatever the case may be. Occasionally, they'll dump waste. Flight, sometimes they dump the actual waste from the porta potties on the airplanes. And so chemical dumps do happen, but they don't stay in the sky for 2 hours. Those are called clouds, and I consider those cloud trails. I do not consider them chemtrails. And I wrote a song that chemtrail enthusiasts are probably not going to enjoy. Well, let's take a listen to this chemtrail song that I made. And I'm not a professional singer, but let's take a listen. A lot of false info out there about the beautiful chemtrails. Don't listen to it. I'm going to tell you the truth about the chemtrails. Truth they don't want you to know. Chemtrails in your face. Chemtrails all over the place. Chemtrails in the sky. Don't listen to them, it's a lie. Chemtrails are everywhere. Chemtrails in your head. Chemtrails, they just inhale. Chemtrails on a microscopic scale. You just don't inhale. The delicious, nutritious chemtrails above you. I love the smell of chemtrail in the morning. I love to inhale the chemtrail. The most underrated hero in the skies is a chemtrail pilot who protects us from a chemical in French fries. We don't know exactly what they protect us from, but one thing we know: chemtrails taste really good. That's what's understood. Chemtrails taste really good. It's understood. Chemtrails. Chemtrails. Chemtrails in your face. Chemtrails all over the place. Chemtrails are everywhere. Chemtrails are in your hair. Chemtrails microscopic scale. Chemtrails you just don't inhale. Chemtrails can't get away. The chemtrails are here to stay, yeah. So I hope you enjoy that song I made for you. That song is dedicated to Prince. Prince claims chemtrails cause people to argue, and I've seen zero evidence of anything like that taking place in my life. I would never blame a cloud for people arguing. But it's his own personal point of view, his own opinion, and I respect that. I'm sure many of you have seen that video where Prince is being interviewed. Prince the musician is being interviewed, and he starts talking about how everyone in his neighborhood started to fight, started to be contentious, started to argue because of the contrails in the sky. I don't know where Prince heard that or read that, probably on a YouTube video or in a magazine publication that is focused on spreading, in my opinion, a conspiracy theory that is unfounded. Everyone is welcome to their own opinion. If you are afraid of contrails, or I mean chemtrails, or cloudtrails, if you're afraid of chemtrails, that's your own prerogative. It's your own choice and perspective. I personally have 0% fear of chemtrails. It would pretty much be the last thing I would ever be afraid of is a cloud in the sky with chemicals in it. So that's my take on chemtrails. I do not believe they are a threat. I have heard the conspiracy theories that they are there to protect us and to prevent the solar rays and the sun from overheating, and they're cooling the earth on a massive scale, and that they have something to do with the HARP project, controlling the weather project. I don't believe any of that stuff. I see zero evidence for any of that. I am open to evidence, though, so feel free to bring some actual evidence and not, I saw a bucket full of aluminum, and did you see that bucket full of aluminum get dumped? If not, then it's just a bucket full of aluminum. Aluminum is a very harmless element, and I see nothing negative going on. I don't see any evidence of any chemical dumping whatsoever. But I'm open to evidence. I'm open to the truth. Feel free to dig up some actual evidence, and feel free to dig up some actual proof. A bunch of photographs of cloud trails tells me that, congratulations, a lot of airplanes flew through a lot of atmospheric conditions that created elongated clouds. That's all that I see. A cloud trail, in my opinion, is created when an airplane flies through a humid area in the sky. Now, there may or may not be a cloud in that area, and just the collection of the humidity creates that cloud trail. Now, if there's a cloud, it'll be easier and more readily visible. If there's no cloud, it might be not as strong, or maybe it will be just as strong. The conditions of an airplane flying through a humid, certain temperature area, certain amount of ice crystals, bam, there's a cloud trail, not a chemtrail. Sometimes it is a contrail. Sometimes, in my opinion, it's a cloud trail. I'd say very rarely is it a chemtrail. Now, that's a term that isn't accepted by the scientific community because it's a term created by conspiracy theorists. I don't see any evidence, but I'm open-minded and hysteria over something that isn't there other than an elongated cloud. Are there more elongated clouds today than there were 10 years ago? Most definitely. It's because there's more air traffic than there was 10 years ago. But I do remember 10 years ago, there were a couple cloud trails here and there. Depending upon where you lived, if you lived right next to an airport, you're going to see a lot of cloud traffic. And that's what chemtrails are. Chemtrails are cloud traffic. Airplanes flying through cloudy areas, or areas with no clouds, with a certain amount of humidity and a certain temperature and a certain climate, creating a cloud where a cloud already was. The cloud was just invisible until it came in contact with something to really condense those crystals, those ice crystals, condense those atoms, those cloud-forming atoms. And that's my perspective on it. I'm not a scientist, but I'm not worried in the slightest. If I was like Tony Stark and I had millions and millions or $1 billion, sure, I would fly up. I would have like a chemtrail collecting vial or cloud collecting vial, and he would collect so much cloud and then seal itself off. An experiment like that would be interesting to me. I've yet to see anything like that take place. I've heard a few whistleblowers claim they flew the planes that dumped these chemtrails, but they don't put their name to it. It's not credible. Put your name to it. Give us some facts. Give us some science. I'm fully open to that. Hopefully, the chemtrail enthusiasts will respect my opinion. I am not afraid of chemtrails. I'm not afraid of clouds. I'm not afraid of contrails. I'm not afraid of cloud trails. Until any evidence comes forward that is credible, until someone gets a vial affixed to the side of an airplane and scoops up samples and has die-hard evidence proving that vial of cloud has harmful chemicals in it, and it's reproduced over and over. Until such study takes place, I am going to be unconvinced, and I do not have any fear of the clouds in the sky. And that's my point of view on the subject. I thank you for watching. This has been J. Razimus with Hoax Hunter. Be seeing you.